You're listening to Pole Parlour, a fun, inspiring podcast for all those bewitched by pole dance. Each week, your Madam Crimson Minxxx has candid conversation with unique, engaging individuals from within and around the pole dance community. Pole Parlour is passionate about preaching creativity, soulful sensuality, and empowerment through pole dance.
You know how we do.
Welcome everyone to Pole Parlour. This is episode 8, Tammy Morris. I'm your host, Crimson Minxxx. On this episode, we have Tammy Morris. Tammy is a former exotic dancer and current fitness professional from Vancouver who has been pole dancing for over 20 years. On this episode, we talk about her history discovering pole and her adventures as an exotic dancer throughout the 90s, her experience having founded the Canadian Pole Fitness Association and opening her highly regarded pole studio, Tantra Fitness, and what it's like being a mother of 3 while running her business and remaining an influential figure in the pole dance community. This episode is super juicy, so without further delay, let's bring on Tammy. Hi, welcome Tammy Morris to the Pole Parlour podcast. How are you today?
Great. Thank you for having me.
Oh, well, thank you for being with us. Let's jump on in. How long have you been pole dancing, and how did you first discover pole?
Oh, okay. Well, these are loaded questions. So,
take as much time as you need.
Well, if I tell you how long I've been pole dancing for, it's really going to give away my age. But I have been pole dancing for, 20 years at least. So maybe 21.
When you turned 8.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Very, very, very young.
Wow, that's crazy. How did you first discover pole?
Well, it's funny because I had different plans for myself, of course. And I come from a family of 5 and I was the only child that went to university. So my parents had really big hopes for me as well. But I worked in a strip bar while I was going to school. So, it actually kind of goes back from that. I'll tell you the whole story. You want the real story?
Yes.
Do you want the unedited story?
Yes, please.
Okay. All right. Well, growing up, I had a very flat chest. So I always said to myself, as soon as I get any money, I am going to buy myself some boobs.
Nice.
And so when I decided to go to college, I took out a student loan. And of course, then I had a bunch of money. And so I used that student loan and I bought myself some boobs. And so I actually had to work like 3 jobs through college and university. And one of those jobs happened to be in a strip bar because it was really, really good tips. So especially with my new boobs, I got lots of tips. So
Yes.
That was kind of my exposure into that world, because other than that, I mean, I'd never been to a strip bar. I'd never even thought about going to a strip bar. I grew up in a very small town that, didn't even have a nightclub, let alone a strip bar. And I just remember, watching these girls, and you have to remember that's like back in the 90s. And I'm watching these like amazing, amazing women that are like walking on their hands and doing backflips. And back at that time, especially here in Canada, the strippers were like, they were gymnasts. They were like amazing. They were professional dancers. They were like, they were very well known. I think around the world, even today, the Canadians are kind of known in the strip industry as being, really entertaining. So I remember just watching them and being amazed, and they would come out and they would like dance for 15 or 20 minutes, and then they would go back to their hotel room and they were they were just raking it in. So I was really intrigued by it, but I obviously didn't want anyone, I come from a small town, so I didn't want anybody to know, that I was interested in doing this. And so as soon as I took criminology, as soon as I finished, I remember in the strip bar, there was a contest, and there was agents there, and one of them was a female. So I felt comfortable going up to her and asking her some questions. And she said, you know what, if you're nervous about bumping into anybody that I can send you to Japan. I can send you to Greece. You can try it out there. So I went from being a starving student because I'd spent all my money on boobs, working my way through, to going to Japan, just packing my bags and going to Japan and starting to dance and making, hundreds, sometimes, over $1,000 a night in Japan.
So there were agents scouting this strip. This must have been a really good strip club.
Well, no, it was the agents that booked the strip bar, but because there was a competition there, the agents were all there judging. It was like Miss Nude Canada or Miss Nude,
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? So the agents were there and they were judging, and they were obviously, just looking at the girls and stuff. And so it was an opportunity to talk to somebody about it. And me being young and foolish and apparently totally invincible, packed my bags and jumped on a plane to Japan by myself.
Wow. That's impressive. Good for you.
Yeah, to go and give it a shot. And I think, everything in the universe has really lined up for me, because even then I worked in a club that opened at 7, but no one would ever come till 9. So all I did for 2 hours was learn how to pole dance. There was just 10 to 15 of us girls waiting for customers, playing on the stage, teaching each other how to do tricks. And, so I really got to learn. So then when I actually came back to Canada and started being a feature dancer, I already knew all these pole tricks. And, again, this is back in the 90s where, I did an iguana, which was like everybody was amazed at the, at that pole move, let alone the stuff, the bar is like massive now. It was very low at the time.
Oh, but still, yeah. Who would even think? I've actually, on YouTube, some of my favorite pole videos are strippers at strip clubs before customers come in filming themselves doing crazy things on the pole. So
exactly.
That's a thing.
I started in the time when there was no YouTube. How awful is that? But it's true.
May have been a better time, but who's to say?
It's true.
That's cool. Okay, so then you decided, you got your degree and you said, to hell with that. I'm traveling. This is fun. I love it.
Well, the first year I was like, okay, this is field study, right? Kind of maybe blamed it on that for the second year. But again, going from a starving student to all of a sudden making this money, I'm like, well, okay, one more year. I'm going to do it for one more year. I'm just going to save up some money. I'm going to do it for one more year. And then before I knew it, it was a career.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you stayed an exotic dancer, you traveled
everywhere. Worked in Greece, worked in London, worked in New York, just traveled all around dancing. And I definitely don't, regret anything. It brought me to where I am now. But even just, the culture and everything, it's amazing to see the rest of the world and have that freedom to dance a few nights and make money and then travel these countries. And it was amazing.
Yeah. And your 20s is the time to do that. So good for you for getting it paid for.
Yes, exactly.
And then, so at what point did you transition from an exotic dancer into the fitness world?
Well, I was approaching my best before date.
Best before
which,
date? What's that?
Well, in the exotic dance industry, it's about 30, right? That's kind of where the cutoff is. After that, you're clinging on for dear life. But, I started to kind of reach that age, and I wasn't sure what I was going to do. And I had, again, this is a moment where I'm like, should I tell her the truth?
Tell us everything. Tell us the truth. Tell us everything.
Okay, well, I was working in a very popular nightclub here in Vancouver, and there was a very famous person that came in. I was just doing my job. I was dancing. I was having fun. I partied a lot back then, so a bunch of us went over to this said person's house, and there was a few movie stars there, and we were having fun. And of course the paparazzi were following them the whole time. So, they were following, they were taking pictures of us, there was, they knew what was up before, it wasn't like I went and kind of leaked anything. The next day when I went to work, there was paparazzi at my work taking pictures. Portia was my stage name, and they were like, Portia, we already know the story. Talk to us. And I refused to talk to them. I refused. I didn't say a word to them. And for a week, it's really crazy what they do. I would go home at like 2 or 3 in the morning after work, and there would be paparazzi in my underground, which was secured underground parking. I had no idea how they got in there.
That's
and
creepy.
They would chase me. And they literally harassed me. I would go to eat at a restaurant and I'd look around and I would see them sitting, watching me, trying to listen into my conversations. And finally one of them was like, listen, I'll never forget. His name was Alan. And he was like, listen, we already know the story. We already have it. We have pictures of you entering, leaving. We talked to all the people there. We know the story. You can either have some sort of control over what goes in there and you can tell us your version and we'll pay you money, or we're just going to write it as is and we're going to put your face in there because you're a public figure. So there's nothing you can do about it. So when they put it like that, I was like, okay, well, let's have a chat. And
I would have made the same decision.
Yeah, it seemed logical at the time when you're presented that information like that. But what they really do is they take a half an inch and they stretch it into a mile. So they're really just, looking for more information, but they just don't believe everything you read in the National Enquirer. Let's just say that.
Yeah, not known for the highest integrity of journalism.
No, they say things. They go, do you think he'll remember that night? And of course he'll remember that night.
Doesn't seem to have amnesia, yeah.
And then it comes out, Tammy says that he had a night that he will never forget. It's like, I didn't say that like that.
So first, yes, don't believe everything you read in the Enquirer. Yeah. But second, because this is Googleable, can we just say who this is?
No, do we?
Okay, never mind.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Do you mind?
No.
Okay. It was Ben Affleck when he was dating J-Lo.
Yeah. And it was a long time ago, and
that's in the past. But
it is. So but you know what?
No, that is major deal probably in your life. Just so people understand, like that was a life-changing thing to be thrown into the public eye like that, and having paparazzi surround you. Who even knew paparazzi were in Vancouver? See, this is another thing.
They were following him, right? They were following him because he was big news at the time. Yeah. And as soon as I agreed to talk to them, again, this is the crazy part. Like, as soon as I agreed to talk to them, they had me on a plane to Hawaii within 24 hours. I wasn't allowed to talk to anybody. My phones were on surveillance because they know they really stretched the truth. Like, I never even kissed him. I was, we went over to a house. We were doing lap dancing. We were drinking. We were just partying. And, there was some debauchery going on, but it wasn't, you know what I mean? It wasn't what they were. There was, really nothing. But, in that article, it turned into I was all of a sudden his lover. And that just wasn't the case. And so they really monitor you because they don't want, first of all, they don't want anyone from his team of people getting a hold of me to tell the truth, because then their story is totally, ridiculous. And then it's out there that it's ridiculous. So it's a really crazy thing. And they had me in Hawaii, and they had me in a really beautiful hotel, and they kept me there for 2 months until I basically said, I don't want to be here anymore. I need to talk to my friends, my family. I need to get out of here. I was really mad at the time, but now that I look back, I call it my divine intervention, right? Because I was partying a lot and I was dancing. I was almost 30. I was near my best before date, as I said. And this really forced me to do something different with my life. And
there's no other place to find yourself than in Hawaii. It's beautiful. So
it was absolutely beautiful. So I literally was obviously I lost my job at the club I was working at because I talked to the paparazzi, and that was a huge no-no. They kept all my costumes, but I had been paid a little bit for the story. So I just, I took a year off, and I decided what I was going to do, and partied a little bit more, and then realized, oh my gosh, I actually have to do something. So, it was too late for me to go back into the criminology stuff. I mean, how do you integrate back into society after being a stripper for 15 years? And that's really, I guess I got a lot of customer service. I don't, I would either have to re-educate myself because there was no way I was going to go and be a waitress or, and no disrespect to waitresses or anything. It's just, wasn't something that I saw myself doing. So I decided, actually, I think I was watching TV and there was an Oprah Winfrey show, and it showed oh, why can't I think of her name right now? X Factor, Sheila Kelly. Yeah. They was doing lessons down in LA. And I thought, are you kidding? Really?
Did Oprah get on the pole?
Oh, I don't remember now.
That's irrelevant. Sorry, that just popped in my head. Anyway, so you saw. So
I saw this and I thought, wow, it's interesting. And I'm sure that most people know who Fania Monday is. And Fania and I, well, actually Fania Dietrich, I'm not sure what she goes by now. But
for those who don't know, she's out of Las Vegas, and she was originally a stripper as well, and she founded the first pole studio in the United States, I believe.
Yeah, she didn't have a pole studio here. So, but I've known Fania way before the pole dancing industry ever happened. She's also from Vancouver Island, where I'm from.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, so we knew each other like as exotic dancers together on the island. Actually, she gave me my first private lesson before I started really dancing. So, yeah, so we've been friends for like ridiculous amounts of years. So it's kind of neat how both of our paths have taken the same turn. But I'm like, I ramble so much, I forget where I'm going.
How'd you get into the fitness world?
Right.
I think you're saying that you just figured out
So anyway, so I'd also known Fania. So this is someone I connected with after I saw that, and we had talked and we had considered opening a pole studio here together. Because I thought, you know what? I still have some money left. I opened up a little studio, put some poles in it. You know, I was always well known in the exotic dance industry as being, you know, one of the top exotic dancers and, you know, being able to dance really well and having some pole tricks under my belt. So I thought, you know what, I'll give it a shot. You know, what's the worst thing that can happen? It doesn't work. I can always go back to dancing for a little while longer, get some more money, you know, or do whatever. But you know what do I have to lose? Like I said, I've always been like, you know, kind of reckless like that. So Fania decided to move to the States and go a different path. So then I opened up a studio in like 2004. So it was officially the first studio in Canada. I know that Aradia Fitness was teaching out of other studios right at that time, but I decided to open a standalone studio. Okay. And within 6 months, I grew out of that tiny little space. Within 6 months, it was really crazy. So I actually had to break my lease and move to a larger location.
Oh, wow. And, well, Oprah has powerful pools, so I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, no, it was a really hostile environment back then, though.
That was going to be one of my questions. Like,
even though there seemed to be a demographic of people that were very open that obviously filled my studio. When I started to do kind of some grassroots marketing and getting out there and talking to people and handing out my card, and especially with being in the news and in the National Enquirer and stuff, I think that people obviously, you know, then view, I think one person actually, I went to give them my card and they were like, I don't want a card from a home wrecker. And I was like,
they weren't married. Calm down, person.
No, exactly. And, you know, again, don't believe everything you read in the Enquirer. So,
oh yeah, that too.
But that aside, even just getting people to come there, they'd be like, well, why would I want to come and take pole lessons? I don't want to be a stripper. And nobody kind of understood. And so that kind of started my plight to be an educator. You know, I really just wanted to get people to come in the door and try it because I knew if they tried it, the outcome was always, oh my gosh, that's such a good workout. Yeah. So, you know, I really just wanted to break down that association and break down, you know, how people thought about it. And it was years and years and years of just, you know, hammering away and trying to educate people and trying to get people to accept it as a sport. Like even the first day I went to Lululemon, I remember when I first opened and I was like, oh, I just opened a dance studio. Can I leave you some cards? And they were like, oh yeah, of course. Took my card, looked at it, and then looked back up and went, oh no, I don't think that, you know, this is the right place for it. And I remember turning out of there and I was like, one day Lululemon will accept me. And years later, I was an ambassador for Lululemon.
No way.
And they had a giant picture of me on their Robson Street store doing a pole move off a lamppost. I was like, success. So I've always been like, you know, I've always been really spoiled all my life. And I think that's actually been a positive thing because I don't take no for an answer. I know if I just, you know, kick and scream hard enough and loud enough that eventually I'll get what I want. So
Yeah, with lots of work too. Because yeah, it seems around this time you started entering into competitions, and competitions started to arise, and you were in the first World Pole Sports competition in Amsterdam, right?
I was. I don't know even really how, because YouTube wasn't really big yet. And so I got a phone call from this guy named John. He's like, we've got this competition. It's a world pole championship. It's going to be amazing. And this is the direction that everything's going. I guess he probably looked online and tried to find anyone in the industry, right? And
what year was this? Sorry to interrupt.
2005.
Okay, so right after you opened the pole studio. Okay.
Yeah, gotcha. Right. So I think that's how he found me. Okay. And so he wanted me to compete at the Worlds, and I thought, yeah, this is going to be great. So that's when I went to Amsterdam and competed against Pantera and Reiko from Japan and Alina Gibson. And it was the first glimpse at like, wow, there's others out there. Yeah. So it was really cool. And was my first exposure to other people doing different moves. And I remember Alina Gibson, she came out wearing like a tutu and point shoes. Oh. And it was like amazing. She did this amazing, amazing show, and then ripped the tutu off, actually, which is why she got disqualified. But she deserved to win because she was amazing. So yeah, and Pantera. I mean, I think my jaw dropped on the ground to see that people were, to this day. So, yeah, that's how it all began.
And then you've gone on to do countless competitions, right? Like I know that you've won a lot of titles.
Well, in the exotic dance industry, I have won over 20 championships, but those are all like, Miss Nude Canada, Miss Nude Entertainer of the Year. Most of them start with a nude.
That is still a title as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. After getting first runner-up in the Worlds, I didn't compete anymore because I actually had the organizer ask. He was trying to actually get the competition spread out and get competitions in all the countries. And he said, well, do you want to run one in Canada? If you do, you can't compete anymore. So at that point, it was like, do I want to be a competitor? I'm a little bit older to get into the game at this point, or do I want to own the competition? I'd rather own the competition and build a platform for the young pole dancers coming up. So then I started the Canadian Pole Fitness Championships and the Canadian Pole Fitness Association, which again then lent to me, educating people and establishing some standards, because that was the biggest thing, is once we started to see other studios pop up all over the place, the teaching standards were, all over the place. There was no standard, right? And I'm sure even to this day, it's very difficult. There's different associations trying to, create standards, but, how do you really enforce them? But so for us, we're just, yeah.
Yeah, so you started the Canadian Pole Fitness Association, and with the intention of educating and to start creating standards.
Yeah, and let me just go back a bit. So just before I opened my studio, I did go to school again, and I got my group fitness certification, and I registered with the BCRPA, and I took my fitness theory, and because I took anatomy in earlier in college and stuff, so it came very easy for me. And then I decided to then become an educator in fitness and obviously apply that to pole. And that's where I got really passionate about teaching it safely and effectively and progressively and all that other fun stuff.
Wow. And so when you started this competition, were you met with any pushback around that time? Because I know you said this was around 2005, 2006. What was your experience?
Oh, the theaters wouldn't even let us hold the competition in their theaters. We were denied from a casino. Like, really?
That's insane.
Yeah. So the first one had to be held in a strip club. There was already poles there, and they were happy to do it. And then I really wanted to get it out of there. So then we went into a nightclub. Okay. And then finally, after we had some footage to be able to present to people and show them that this was a sport, this was not a bunch of strippers on a pole, which again, I mean no disrespect.
Two different things.
Yeah. then they, we finally got into a theater. So we got into the Vogue theater. So that helped. But to this day, and I'm sure everybody in the industry still feels it, there's still those people that are just, completely closed-minded about it.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
I got, I remember we started offering kids classes, and I got a phone call from The Talk. And they flew me out to LA, and I was on The Talk with Sharon Osbourne and Thea Ramini. And and it was, I was just, again, it was those things that you go into and you are, ignorant because you just don't know. I've never really been on a talk show like that before. I'm like, oh, good. I'm going to represent Pole, and I'm going to tell them how wonderful it is, and I'm going to educate them. No, no, they ambushed me, and it was awful. Actually, it was like, there's the guy, and he's got the applause sign, and everything they would say, he would hold it up, and the whole audience would be cheering, and and then I would say something, and no matter how intelligent it was or how articulate it was like he'd hold the applause sign down and nobody would say a word. So, and it was like Leah Remini was like, "There's no way I would allow my daughter to get on a stripper pole," and I was like, well, there's no way I want my daughter on a stripper pole too, but I'd like her on a pole just for fitness, for dancing on. But I'd prefer that she didn't strip. But I don't have to explain to you or anybody else in this industry the difference. But and because of my background, I'm not afraid to say that there is that part of it, and that part of it is awesome, and lots of women want that sensual part of it, and I don't think that it should be pushed aside by any means. But for me now, it's about embracing that and teaching people in a really safe, secure environment. Would I suggest that people do it for money in front of strangers? Probably not. There's great things about it, but there's lots of negative things about it. So
yeah, that's something that we've talked about on here a lot, which is to respect the history of pole dance, and to know that it did come from strippers, and strippers were the ones that started all of our first competitions, our first studios that taught us, tricks and all of that. But I don't think there should be any confusion that because you're a pole dancer, you're qualified as a stripper as well, because there's the reality of that. There is private dancing, that there is nudity, there's things like that just aren't part of, pole dance as contemporary pole dance,
exactly,
as we're speaking to. So you have to kind of respect that as well. I know I would never qualify for that, and I give people a lot of credit that have that ability to be that free and open and willing. So it's a personal choice, but
totally,
they're different.
Exactly.
One derives from the other, but it does not qualify you for the other. Correct.
No, it's a great way of putting it. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, freaking Sharon Osbourne, who knew? So
Sharon Osbourne, actually, she was the only one that was actually, in her accent, she was like, no, I get it. Oh, she's not confrontational. I loved her. Yeah. But it was Leah Remini that was really sticking it to me.
Who even knows who that is? That's who cares.
Yeah. And then I got a phone call from Dr. Phil's show after that, asking me to go on and do it again. And I was like, absolutely not.
No.
No, so you can make a fool out of me, and I actually don't get a word in edgewise, especially with him, because he's even more, he would get into my mind, and he would mess with me. So I said no.
Yeah. Good for you though, for, just getting the conversation out there. It's a step, and it may not have been like a successful interview initially, but it did start the conversation, and it did bring awareness. So in that sense, it was successful. So good for you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So let's go back to your pole studio then. What's the name of it? It's
Tantra Fitness.
And why did you pick the name Tantra?
Because right from the beginning, I didn't want to pull the wool over anybody's eyes, and I know that Tantra obviously has a little bit of a sensual connotation. It's not tantric, because Tantra is an energy.
Okay.
And it can be used in a tantric fashion, but it really is just an energy that you harness on the inside to help control you or change you on the outside. And I really like the meaning of that. And I like the fact that it still sounded a little bit sexy, because that's what it is for me. So, and again, we have classes that are not sexy at all. We have classes that are, age appropriate for anybody. But I still wanted the studio as a whole to have that kind of, that kind of sexier connotation. So so I decided to go with Tantra Fitness.
I like that. It's the blending of both. It's like the sensuality, but the athleticism involved as well.
Exactly. Now, don't get me wrong, because you don't know how many emails we've had from like creepy guys. So in Tantric Fitness, this sounds awesome. Like, no.
Learn your words, buddy.
Yeah. Like, no, that's not what it is.
Wow. So you started it in 2004.
Yeah.
You grew out of your first space almost immediately.
Yeah.
And then what happened after that? How many do you have now? And
well, we moved into Gastown, which is, right in the core of Vancouver. And it just went kind of crazy from there because it's really good exposure. I don't know if you've ever been to Vancouver, but it's a very trendy area. So it gave us the exposure that we needed, and it was bursting at the seams. So then we opened another studio in Richmond, which is about 35 minutes away. And then we opened another one in Vancouver, like 10 minutes from this one. And then we just opened another one in Burnaby. So we have 4 now.
Wow. Okay. That's cool. And so, it's a challenge in owning a pole studio. That's for sure.
It's, and that's the thing. I don't want to make it sound like I'm opening all these studios and I'm killing it over here. Because that's not the case. Right? Any other pole studio that knows, that knows how business is, it's not going to make you a millionaire. There's other sources of revenue that we try and do. We have tantratutorials.com, which is, it's online lessons on when we have guests on there like Stephen Retchless and Natasha Wang. And so we brought in a lot of guests, Brandon Grimm, and they do tutorials for us. So that's another revenue stream. But I mean, for me, it's like you have one really great studio, you make some money from that studio. So I thought, hey, well, if I can make a bit of money from one studio, if I can have multiple studios and make money from multiple studios, then hopefully that will be, the bigger picture of where I want to be. And so that's the whole point, but it's kind of an all-in moment, right? So now I have 4 studios. I'm like, okay.
It's tough. Do you have any advice for people who are thinking about opening their own studio?
No, because do you know why? Because I went into it completely ignorant. I'm not going to lie. I actually, I did own a business when I was younger, like between graduating from high school and going to college. I owned a little surf shop, store. So I've always kind of had a business intention, and a business mind. So, but as far as like startup company, because I bought that business, while I was working in it from someone else, it was turnkey. I was totally ignorant. Like, if somebody had said to me, look, when you open up your pole studio, you are going to work like 8 hours out of a 4-hour period. You are going to be the janitor, the marketing executive. You are going to be, teaching classes. You are going to be working the front. You're going to wear every single hat. You're going to make less money than you probably ever made in your life. So you probably need another job to supplement so that you can pay the rent. I mean, I would have been like, okay, no, I don't think so.
Yes.
But I had no idea. I just went into it and I was like, I'll give it a shot. I continued to dance at a different club for a while.
Okay.
So I would wake up in the morning, I would go market the studio. I would answer phone calls, emails, try and do some promotions. Then I'd teach classes from like 5:30 to 9:30. And then I would go to the strip bar and I would dance until 2:00 in the morning. And then I would do it all over again. So, even after years and years of owning it, it's never, like any small business owner, if you don't have passion, don't even bother because I think as a pole studio owner, that's what's going to carry you through. You have to love it. You have to be passionate about the sport, about, everything about it.
Yeah.
Because
we've had this conversation so many times on this podcast, and it's like people really in pole dance, at this point, it's still, people are doing it for the passion of it. And it's totally. Anyone who's getting into pole for the money is going to be really disappointed.
It's true. That's why I say that would be my only advice then. If you can make a little bit from one studio, copy it, open a whole bunch, and then hopefully a whole bunch of littles, make a whole bunch of money.
Gotcha.
Yeah. This is what I'm hoping for. I mean, especially with 3 children. So I have 3 children. Yeah. I have a 6-year-old, I have a 2-year-old, and I have a 7-month-old. So, you know, constantly trying to find this balance. And it was amazing because I went to this like young business, women in business convention. And this big CEO, she got up there and the first thing she said was, if you are a mom and you own a business and you are trying to find balance, stop, because you will never find it. And I was like, hallelujah.
You're not doing it wrong. It's just impossible.
Exactly.
Yeah, what has been the response? Have you had any experiences, being that you are a prominent figure in the pole dance community and a mother of 3? Have you had any responses to that? Have you had any issues, or not really?
I don't think so, because I think it's a lot about how you approach it as well, right? So I'm super open about it, So I'll drop my little one off at school and I'll have a mom be like, oh, wow. Yeah. So what do you do? Oh, I teach, I own a studio, a dance studio. Oh, what kind of dance? Pole dancing mostly. I'm not shy or embarrassed about it. And I think that also how you kind of deliver that, Mm-hmm. I mean, even if the conversation goes as far as, wow, how did you know how to do that? Yeah. I have no problem with saying, oh, as an exotic dancer for many years. Because
it's refreshing.
Well, yeah, and I just think that, why be ashamed of anything? Like there should be no point where you're, I'm not ashamed of anything at all, because I know I'm a good person and I know, what I mean? I'm a good mom. I'm a good business owner. I mean, I guess I have to go back to my other piece of advice. I'm not sure if you know this, but I have a business partner. Oh. Her name is Winnie. She's having a baby tomorrow morning.
Oh, goodness. Babies everywhere.
There's babies everywhere. I know. And
pole dance gets you laid. No, I don't know.
Yeah. That's what happens in this industry. I'm so sexy and irresistible. I brought Winnie on as a business partner in maybe 4 or 5 years ago, because of my decision to be a mom and start having a family, and it just being way, way too difficult. So she is the best business partner that anyone could ask for. She's a workaholic. So if you're looking for a business partner, make sure they're a complete workaholic, because that's all she does until, of course, she has her baby tomorrow, and then things might change. But
wow, good luck to her.
Yeah, she's super helpful. Having a business partner is definitely super helpful.
Oh, great. Mm-hmm. Do your kids, do you have a pole at home? Do your kids ever play on it?
You know what? I don't even bother, because I try and put my pole up at home and then it becomes a fight, right? Over who's going to go next. I'm not kidding. My 6-year-old and my 2 almost 3-year-old are like, it's my turn. It's my turn. I'm like, no, it's my turn. Go to your room. So
kids are drawn to it.
And naturals, like, mm-hmm. Really. I mean, on the blog, I did put, I mentioned Justice Haley, who is like the 11-year-old. And I mean, that to me, like, this is the future of where pole dancing is going. I'm actually glad that I was, in the game, like competition wise, when the bar was really low, because I don't think I'd want to be in it anymore.
No, me neither. I couldn't hang. But yeah, she for those, she's referencing her blog interviews. So if you head over to poleparlour.com, you'll see Tammy's post podcast blog interview where she shares a lot of really cool like video and songs and photos. And yeah, and also your inspiring image of this 11-year-old girl doing, I don't even know what the hell that trick is called. It was like this back bendy on the pole. But reality is, I think that, we can take the sexy and the sensuality out of pole dance, but it is naturally going to spread to something that is just, I would say, like just pole fitness. And that's where I feel like kids belong, and they're naturally interested, and they're naturally gifted at it. So,
Well, it's funny because for me, my background is sexy.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, to this day, like I went into the UPA, they have the little competitions. Yeah. And I won in the sexy division.
Oh, what year?
2 years ago.
Oh, awesome. I'm going to put that video in the show notes. I want to see
Okay. Yeah. Okay, for sure. And so, I mean, that's my background. But even from the moment I opened Tantra Fitness, I really pulled the sexy out. And I really, really focused on the technical stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I stayed away from the sensuality. So, you know, at no point in my classes were we like, you know, touching our body and stuff. It was really about, you know, pulling down the lats and engaging the shoulders. And it was super, super technical body position and, you know, what muscles you're recruiting. And it was all that kind of stuff. And it was funny because of my background.
Yes, you wouldn't expect that.
Yeah, because I think because of that, I felt like I had to be like more professional. Mm-hmm. I had to be more articulate. I had to be more on time. You know, I had to be less sensual because I didn't want to, you know, really make people feel any certain way or feel, what's the word? I'm like intimidated by me. So it's funny because I really took that out. And then you saw other studios where the owner had never been an exotic dancer before. Their classes are full of like, touch your body and like, wear your stilettos. And I was so the opposite of that. But that just reminded me because you're right. Because even though I pulled it all out, it somehow just all comes back in.
I was going to say, I see videos from your studio and there is sexy in there. So
yeah, we produce some sexy ladies.
Yes.
But yeah. And I think it's just, but I mean, who, you know, what woman doesn't want to be, you know, a sensual goddess and, you know, so I think that's why pole fitness is here to stay because in those early years too, that's the, you know, that's what everyone kept asking me. Do you think it's a fad? You know, do you think this is the next Taebo or whatever and I always said, no, it's here to stay because it makes women feel confident, you know, and not just women, we accept men into the studio as well, but, you know, it serves so many purposes, has so many different angles and different aspects. I don't see it going anywhere. It's just growing and it's taking over the world.
Yeah, it's expanding in all different directions. So if you just want the fitness, you have the fitness. If you just want the sexy, you have the sexy. And studio owners usually have a balance of both classes. So you can take what you're interested in. And like a lot of people combine them all. So yeah, cool. So let's jump into the second part of the interview, the standard closing questions. So first is, who is, and you know a lot of people, it seems, and have danced with a lot of people, but who is your pole crush?
Well, you know what's funny? My pole crush is Stephen Retchless. And that's great. You know, but he's just a beautiful person.
He's very handsome.
I know.
Inside and out, I'm sure. But
he is, and we had a float last year for Gay Pride Parade, and so we take part in the Gay Pride festivities every year. So last year Stephen came and hung out with us and did some demos with us, and so this year he's coming back again, and he is just so humble and he's so down to earth and he's such an amazing pole dancer and he's so beautiful, and I literally sometimes I'll just be looking at him when he's there and I'll be like, oh my god, he's so beautiful, and I'm like, how can I actually have these little kind of feelings about this really gay man, because he's super gay, and hopefully he's not insulted by that. I mean, he knows he's gay.
I think he's aware.
You know, and then he'll talk and he'll flick his hair and I'll be like, okay. I snap out of it.
Yeah, that's a good crush to have.
Yeah, but he really is beautiful inside and out. You know, if he was like not humble or a little bit high on himself, I'm sure I'd feel differently, but he's a great person, so.
Oh, yeah, and very talented. He does that balance of athleticism and sensuality really well, and his performances have like really high entertainment value, so he's really enjoyable to watch.
Yeah.
Cool. And so how would you like to see the pole dance community evolve over the next 5 years?
Well, you know what? I like where it's going, but as someone so I'm the founder of the Canadian Pole Fitness Association, like I said, and within that we have to be careful. So there's no stilettos allowed, you know, we have to be careful about removing the clothing. And like how that's going, but at the same time, I don't want it to get too stringent. We just opened a pole art division. So at the same time, I would still love it that people embrace that sensuality. And I really do hope to see more showcases and performances and maybe even competitions where stilettos and sensuality is totally embraced.
Yeah.
And I think it's becoming more acceptable now.
Yeah. And you're in the position to help make that change. So that's cool.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's like, I want to spread, I want to make the world a sexier place day by day. I mean, I just think it will help with everything from like, judgments to stereotypes to even, the slut shaming and all of that kind of stuff. And I think that I think that everybody just needs to relax a little bit, just because you put on a pair of stilettos and, and you're confident about your body and your sensuality, it doesn't, make you anything other than a wonderful, confident human being.
I agree. Well put.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so do you have anything coming up that you'd like to share with the audience? We said that your studio is Tantra Fitness, so you can look that up, and any social media or competitions, or I know don't you have like another? Are you involved with another competition in Vancouver?
Well, yeah. So we've got tantrafitness.com, and then we've got tantratutorials.com. Mm-hmm. And then I have the Canadian Pole Fitness Association. So we have the competitions all across Canada. Mm-hmm. And Tantra Fitness is then hosting this year the BC Pole Fitness Championships.
Cool.
And the winner of that will then go to the Canadian Pole Fitness Championships in Ontario. And the winner of that then goes to X-Pole's the PCS series in Ohio at the Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Cool.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay. So lots to look forward to. Sounds like you stay really busy.
You know what? I wouldn't want it any other way.
Good.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay. And then on that note, can you leave us with an empowering message or quote or anything just to sign off?
Well, you know what? I think that, obviously I still teach classes once in a while. And I think the biggest thing is that I find so many instructors and stuff, and even students these days are so focused on, watching YouTube and Instagram and copying and, copying the Olga Kotas I really am always trying to tell my students, like, be yourself. Because I think that's the biggest thing in this industry that I'm finding is that people are always kind of comparing themselves. And I personally, I try and stay off of those things as much as possible. Winnie's our social media guru, so I actually try and stay away from it.
Gotcha.
Because I don't want to be influenced too much, because I don't, I always tell people, be the creators, don't be the followers, create your own stuff and throw it out there. And, before you know it, people will be watching your channel going, wow, how did you come up with that? So, I think that's my biggest thing I'm always telling to my students.
I agree with that, with the understanding you have just the same ability to be creative and do something impressive as anyone else. So
exactly. Yeah.
Don't be derivative. Well,
I'm always saying that. I'm always like, just try it. Something will happen. Yeah. If it looks good, let's name it.
Yeah. Yeah. Everything. I mean, it's so fun to look at that. To look online and be inspired, but there's a difference between being inspired and being just not feeling comfortable doing your own thing. There's a balance. So
exactly.
Great.
Be your confident, sexy self.
Hell yeah. Thank you so much, Tammy, for being on the podcast. It was so fun talking with you. Thank you for being so open and informative with us.
Well, thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. Bye. Thank you for listening to the Pole Parlour podcast. Want more? Visit poleparlour.com for show notes and to link to the Facebook group where you can connect with other poloholics and continue the conversation. Listen to past episodes and subscribe to new episodes on the website, YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, or SoundCloud. Lots of love, babes. Thanks for listening.